The governing paradigm of faith in the Old Testament is the journey from slavery to covenant. In fact, this was the narrative that gave hope to our brothers and sisters from the continent of Africa that were forced into chattel slavery for hundreds of years on this very soil. The Exodus was such an empowering event that as the abolitionist movement gained traction, white Christian slave owners would rip out entire sections of the Bible that hinted of the liberation of God's people. The entire Exodus was torn out of the Bible to prevent slaves from developing ideas about how the scriptures might actually speak into their present conditions. Further, the entire book of Revelation was kept out so that there was nothing to look forward to, nothing to hope for, no eschatological vision of the kingdom to press towards. Their emphasis was obedience to their masters. I actually saw a copy of the Slave Bible, and it hit me that the proclamation and teaching of the full counsel of God was hindered by people who are probably as pleasant as our dear neighbors in the towns and suburbs that we are very familiar with. They were probably nice people who gave their neighbors sugar and flour when they needed it, hosted dinner parties, gave generously to charities and missions, and went to church week in and week out. But the idea of disrupting their comfortable plantation-owning lifestyles and their economic standing was just too much. So they tore out entire sections of the Bible and gave their slaves a truncated version of God's word. And if we transported them to our modern era, they might be what Martin King would have called the white Christian moderate, that to this day preaches and lives out of a truncated version of the gospel that has little to say about biblical justice and righteousness, that extends to the margins of our society and to the disparities that we see. They simply upheld an unjust status quo. Thankfully, through oral tradition, however, in the form of storytelling and the singing of spirituals, the full gospel that white Christian slaveholders tried to keep from black slaves was proclaimed among the slave community in a way that the gospel wasn't truncated, but was full and robust, and perhaps more unblemished and untainted than any version of Western Christianity that we see today.